Right guys, join me just over 24 hours into the session on what's to be my winter syndicate. Been allowed out early access to come on, sort of scope it out before it does get too cold. Got here yesterday morning, had a good walk round, never seen the lake before. It's a beautiful picturesque lake, loads of reeds and weed about, and the fish were actually sat in the weed a lot yesterday. It was a really nice bright sunny day, but I didn't think they'd stay there overnight, so I've sort of set me up in a nice little vantage point where I've got a couple of channels either side of a nice big island, and seen a bit of activity in the area, so could be a few fish on the cards. Well, here's a perfect example of why I love fishing these little weedy intimate venues. This one was caught this morning from a little hole in the weed. Fought like an absolute demon in and out of the weed beds, but managed to jump in after him, managed to get him out of the weed, and just the reward, just over £26. But I'll slip him back. There might be a few more on the cards. Here's number two, proper little angry mirror this one. Just got the rod straight back out on exactly the same spot. Didn't have time to make a cup of tea, and the same rod ripped off again. Just shows the importance of getting the rod straight back out accurately on the little holes in the weed, and you can make the most of the short bite times. I'm going to talk to you about the hardware that I brought with me for this particular session. I'm using the Daiwa Infinity Evo MT rods in a 12-foot 3¼ test curve. Now, even though I'm fishing just under 40 yards and it's quite short range, 12-foot does have its advantages. It means that if fish does decide to weed itself, I've got that angle to be able to remove it, and also if fish does kite down the margins, I've also got that angle to sort of get the fish back towards me. The 3¼ test curve, it is soft, but that also means it can absorb the lunges of the hard fighting fish under the rod tip. It means that I'm not going to pull any hooks if the fish does decide to bolt off at the blue. They're coupled up with a Bezier 45 SCW reel, loaded up with 15-pound line. You do need quite strong kit to get away with the amount of weed that's in this particular venue, and it's quite common for other intimate venues that the fish will scrap really hard, so strong gear is a must. All I'm doing tactics wise is just finding clear spots in amongst the weed and presenting short pop-up rigs over a bed of washed out whole boilies. There are some bream and some tench present, so the whole boilies means I'm not going to get pestered by any nuisance fish. Okay, so little update. Seen out the morning bite time in the main swim, and there wasn't much else happening. Heard a few fish out on the other end of the lake, so we've packed the gear up for now and come for a look round. Put the polarised sunglasses on and looked in some of the edges, and managed to see a few fish right in the edge, and dropped a rig, as I'm sure you can see over my shoulder. And this is why I find this sort of fishing really exciting, where you can actually see the fish coming in close from the edge and feeding on your bait. So hopefully for the next sort of hour before we pop off, that rod will hoop over another fish. Okay, so I mentioned that we're using boilies on this particular session to try and avoid the nuisance fish like the bream and the tench. Now, boilies straight out the bag can be really effective, but there are a few things that I like to do just to boost them up. In this particular lake, I imagine the fish are quite wary. There's quite a few anglers that will often pre-bait to try and get a spot going. So I've tried to imitate bait that's already been on the spot for a while. And what I've done is taken my bait straight out of the freezer, popped it into a bucket and let it defrost as normal. I've just covered the boilie, just normal tap water, and I've added a little bit of liquid. And what that'll actually do is let the boilies soak in that liquid over a period of time. so that will avoid it from taking any smells of any silt and debris on the bottom, keeping the traction pumping out. And it also washes the boilies out, so they look like they've been in the water for quite a long period of time, which means the fish can be more readily accepted to them basically, so they're more happy to feed on it. Also makes it very soft, especially in the colder months. It will pass through them very quickly and they're happy to eat lots of it until you get the bite. Well, that's about the end of it now. Sort of ran out of time. Initially, after putting that rig in, fish sort of backed off and they haven't really come back in the same competition. So that's it for now, but I'm more than happy with the result we've had on my first session down there, and I can't wait to come back.